Thank you for joining us for another episode of 3Squares. We are thrilled you are here. If you would like to communicate with any of the squares, you can reach out via email at 3squaresmail. That's the number 3squaresmail at gmail.com. We are thrilled you're here. We've got an exciting guest, and of course, your three hosts. I'm Charlie Arnott with the Center for Food Integrity and Look East, dedicated to helping the food system be trustworthy. Susan, Kevin?
Hi, I'm Susan Schwally. I lead the food and beverage practice at the newly minted Circana, formerly IRI and NPD, all together.
They didn't go with Drippin'. They did not go with Drippin'.
They did not go with Drippin'. They could have made that word out of NPD and IRI, Charlie. I know. We are Circana, and we are the world's leading advisors on the complexity of consumer behavior.
With the really cool purple logo. I like your purple logo.
I should change my background.
You should too.
I'll work on that, Kevin, while you introduce yourself.
Don't disconnect yourself.
So Kevin Ryan, Malachite Strategy and Research, and we help companies, CPG, retailers with front-end innovation and strategy.
All right. And we have a fabulous guest. Kevin, you always do a remarkable job bringing on exciting entrepreneurs who are doing some groundbreaking work. So with that, I will let you introduce Perteet.
Yes. I don't know if I do a great job. I just know some really awesome people. They agree to come on. So I'd like to introduce Perteet Spencer, and she's going to give us a lot of information about herself. But just to give a quick overview, she has a great and very diverse background. Amazing. So Perteet and I met actually at General Mills, where she was the senior marketing manager. And later that she spent time then at Tribune Publishing as a director of brand marketing. And then she became category director at Treehouse Foods. And then went on to Spins, where she was the VP of CPG and enterprise sales and the VP of strategic solutions. And today, Perteet is the co-owner, founder of IO Foods, which is a food startup specializing in the delicious taste of West African cuisine. And Perteet has her BS from DePaul, not DePaul. I always try to make sure I say that correctly, because people, it's almost like the Ohio State. People get very upset if you say it one word. It's the Ohio State, which is really annoying. University.
No, and you don't need to say that school.
Right. Yeah. And her MBA from the Carlson School of Management at University of Minnesota. Welcome, Perteet.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to hang out with you all today. I feel like I could be in an inaugural fourth square. I always say I'm a CPG geek, so I don't know if that was the background on the 3 squares, but super excited to be here with y'all today.
Yes, we are. Yes, that is a good way to say it. We are CPG geeks. And as your background shows, you are definitely part of the crowd here. So So just to kind of kick us off, because we were actually chatting behind the scenes about startups and IO Foods and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people think about starting their own company, and going out. Like in your background, I mean, amazing background. Why start your own company? Like, why go out and do that? Because a lot of people don't take that leap. I'm just curious, what made you say, I want to start this company?
Yeah, so I won't say I went kicking and screaming, but I will tell you it wasn't an easy decision. I'd say two big factors, the biggest being my co-founder, who also happens to be my husband, sidebar, but so grateful we're like still married 3 years into this exciting journey. But in all seriousness, it's been so much fun. But my husband started his first company when he was 24. So he's always had just like an incredible lean towards kind of higher risk tolerance than me, but also just a big idea guy. IO actually started as an idea when I was back at General Mills. So, over 10 years ago now. And it was very much a kind of around the table concept that we talked a lot about. At the time, we just felt like the market wasn't quite ready for a concept as disruptive as IO. So kind of put it on the shelf. But, during my time at Spins, I got to work with some incredible founders. And the more founders I work with, the more encouraged I was that now could be the right time for a concept like IO. And so in end of 2018, we started kind of on the side taking Fred was doing real estate development at the time. We started taking all his extra money from his real estate projects, pouring it into R&D, for what at the time was a bit of a side hobby. And then it just got to the point where it was becoming quite an expensive hobby. And we said, okay, Fred came to my office, I'll never forget. And he said, look, like, this is a good idea. We've poured a ton of money into it. Like, we either need to do it or not. And like, I want to do it. And I will do it without you, but it will be much better with you. And that was like the exact push I needed to move forward. So we launched in July of 2020, which I know we'll talk about kind of what an interesting, crazy time that was to launch an emerging brand, but haven't looked back since. And it's been such a fun journey.
Wow, what a great story. That's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing it. So you obviously came from a variety of CPGs where you had infrastructure, you had systems, you had support, and then you're a founder in a startup. What are some of the challenges maybe that surprised you over the last 3 years as you went from, okay, I've got IT, I've got accounting, I've got all these other systems, to now I am IT, I am accounting, I am all of those things?
Yes, all of that. So coming from the CPGs that I've worked in, you have access to like the best and the brightest and in all of the functions. And you quickly realize in startup land that it's all you and your team. And we're still lean team. We're a team of 5 today. And so we wear all the hats. I think that was certainly a shift from the background that I came from. I think, I think the gift of that is it forces you to be really resourceful. It forces you to be much more agile. And certainly given the time that we launched in, July 2020, we learned those lessons in spades. And so, I think while we can look at the resource constraints as something that is an impediment to our success, we actually choose to just accept that the gifts of what that offers, which is kind of the nimbleness to pivot quickly in all of those good things. And so I think what I value from my past experience, which I bring to IO, is understanding kind of the big picture and the process. And then what I've taken from kind of this other hat is the ability to kind of marry the end goal of where we're going with this much more nimble, iterative process, which I think actually a lot of big CPG could learn from. And so, my mom always said kind of, you got to play the hand that you're dealt. And so this is the hand we're dealt. And so we really choose to like see the gifts in it and kind of make the best of it.
That's awesome.
So,
Although it
go
does
ahead,
sound
Tom.
like you were actually the dealer. So
That's a
It's always good
secret.
to
Make
be the
yourself the
dealer.
dealer. Yeah.
There you go.
I want to be the dealer. Wow. I mean, I can't imagine just all the pivoting that had to go on. Like and I want to hear about this. You mentioned, 2018, you're really starting this at the beginning of the pandemic, which had to be just crazy. But at the same time, you're also going out to the marketplace and the retailers and saying, hey, you need to bring on West African food, which is not a well-known entity. So congratulations. Not only did you do something that was hard as a founder, but you went into an area that was, without familiarity. So how did you convince those folks who weren't familiar with this cuisine to take you on? Because today you're in Whole Foods, Target, Kroger, and Sprouts, right? Yeah.
So we're in about 5,000 plus stores nationally now. So it's been kind of an incredible journey. I as challenging as the pandemic was, I think what it did force us to do is think really, really hard about kind of the business that we're in and how we build community in an environment that was frankly very challenging to do that. And so, when we launched, our initial plan was to be on the road, the full summer doing demos at stores and all of the traditional things that you would do if you were kind of launching a disruptive brand that was less familiar, a less familiar cuisine. And we couldn't do all of that. But what it forced us to do is think creatively about how we engage community. So we actually hosted retailers and distributors virtually and did a number of virtual cooking classes. As I look at some of our chef partnerships, which was really an evolution of kind of creating community in a landscape where people were really starved for that. And so, as the food industry had pivoted, so did the restaurant industry. And so that actually opened up new opportunities to tap into kind of some of the best culinary talent in the world to bring some of their dishes to IO. And so, yeah, it was certainly not without its challenges, but I think we really use the time to kind of refine our business model. And then, I think people got tired of eating frozen pizza every night. And so the ability to deliver something different and fresh that was kind of high quality, but easy to enjoy at home was something that was really lacking in the market and a unique gap that IO could fill. And so while the first, 6 months were challenging, it actually created an avenue for our kind of rapid expansion in 2021.
Tell me a little bit more about the virtual cooking class. What made you think to do that? It's amazing that you just said, hey, you know what? We're kind of stuck using Zoom. Let's do virtual cooking. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we always thought of IO as an invitation into our home for dinner. So, fun fact, IO translates to joy. And so the name was really inspired by these incredible moments that we had with family. And so Fred and I both come from pretty large extended families. My mom is the youngest of 11. Fred's got a family of 9. And so when all our moms are besties. And so when our families get together, there's always a lot of people, and you can't have that many people together without really amazing food, or you'll be roasted.
That's right.
And so, IO really represented this incredible time with family that we wanted to replicate for others. We wanted others to be inspired by the joy that our flavors brought. And so for us, since we couldn't do that in person, bringing that experience, bringing people into our kitchens virtually, felt like the obvious way to do that, because what we're ultimately building is a platform that celebrates West African culture. And so a lot of people say why'd you start in frozen? That's a really hard space. But for us, we were very much rooted in this idea of if you haven't experienced the depth, the fullness, the richness of West African flavors, it may be a big ask to ask you to make it at home on your own. And so we wanted to inspire people to enjoy and get excited about the flavors, and then give them kind of a cheat to have them on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, you gave them an experience at home that would be really difficult for them to replicate, to your point, and they didn't have restaurants as an access. So yeah, amazing.
Very cool. Very cool. So recently at Expo West, Perteet, you introduced mini pies, which takes you now into third grocery segment, frozen appetizers. Why frozen appetizers now? I could see it as you were heading into the pandemic because everybody's eating frozen pizza. But what's your strategy for entering new spaces and developing new products? Because it sounds like the opportunity for product expansion is nearly endless.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we often joke there's 60 categories in the grocery store, and West African flavors are not very well represented across many of them. So the world is our oyster. Mini pie is actually the inspiration for that. Is an item that we launched in the beginning of 2021 called Puff Puff. So Puff Puff is actually a yeast-based dough that gets kind of flash fried. So it's called Puff Puff in Nigeria, where my family's from. In Liberia, it's called Kala. It's called beignets here in the States, right? So there's a lot. It's one dish, 10 names. That could be on the pop quiz later today. But Puff Puff is typically served on kind of platters, party platters called small chops. So lots of fun little bites. And one of the kind of adjacent items to Puff Puff on a small chop's plate is typically meat pies. The thing about meat pies is they tend to be a little larger. So while they are party food, they're not necessarily party size. And so we just saw an opportunity to one, kind of give Puff Puff a brother or sister on the shelf, but also kind of bring something fresh to that frozen handhelds appetizer space that is actually driving a lot of the growth in the frozen set with West African flavors. And so it felt like a natural extension of kind of the capabilities that we're building in frozen entrees to really round out the plate. And so now you can have like your complete kind of app meal. In dessert, if you want to put some Nutella on those Puff Puff, all kind of West African style.
Awesome. Thank you.
I noticed you have sauces too. And there's one sauce in particular, I saw a sweatshirt that I absolutely loved. And
the Chateau sauce.
Chateau. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, do you pronounce it Chateau? And now that I know that Io means joy, what does Chateau mean?
So Chateau is actually a pepper. So Chateau is like a classic Ghanaian sauce that we've kind of fallen in love with throughout this journey. The mark of, I'd say there's a couple marks of a really delicious Chateau. One is the kind of deep kind of richness of the flavor, which often comes from either smoked fish or dried shrimp. We use dried shrimp in ours, but it's this like really delicious seafood base. And then as with other kind of West African dishes, like you cook it for a long time. And so there's this like layered cooking process that I'd say. So often people will say like, what is the mark of West African food? You know, you're talking about 17 countries, all within their unique flavors and traditions, but what is common is this like slow cook layered cooking process. And so that carries through to our Chateau sauce. Please send me your addresses after this. I'll get you some and it'll become your go-to for everything. We put it on pizza, we put it on eggs. If you were in a Chinese restaurant in Ghana, that would be on the table instead of chili crisp. So it's really this like rich, versatile sauce that it has become our kind of go-to condiment for everything.
I love it. And my son will love to say that name.
Yeah, that's fun too, right?
Being 12 today, he would love to have permission to say that name.
Yeah, I have a 12-year-old too, and she wears that sweatshirt to school at least once or twice a week. Yeah,
that's amazing. Speaking of girls, can we talk a little bit about the work that Io is doing in Liberia? I believe it's Girl Power Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That's importance to you, and then how that fits in with your brand message?
Yeah, so, Fred and I have been, have had the privilege of being like poured into by a lot of incredible people. And so for us, it was hugely important when we started IO that not only were we introducing the world, the US palate to like a whole new set of flavors and ingredients, but also that we were like enriching the communities that inspired the brand. So we didn't want to just be like takers. And so early in our journey, we partnered with an organization based in Monrovia, Liberia, where my family is from, called Girl Power Africa. In Girl Power Africa, their goal is to really empower women who have been victims of Liberian civil war and Ebola in Liberia to kind of start anew, get a fresh start, but really give them the resources to do that. And so we were so moved by their work, and early on our journey, we said, like, we just want to get involved with what you're doing. How can we support you? And they happen to have like about 15 acres of land that was just kind of sitting. And they're like, there's a real need actually for kind of converting that land to working farmland that obviously like fits uniquely with kind of IO's vision and mission. And, it would create economic opportunity in these communities. And so December of 2020. So just about, 5 months after we launched, we kicked off our initiative with Girl Power Africa. That land has been now fully cleared, fully converted to working farmland. There's 3 homes on that land that actually house the grounds crew. And then we've seen a couple cycles of crop yield on that land. The yield doesn't go to IO at this stage. It goes directly to the women to actually create businesses of their own. So whether it's using the palm oil to create soaps, or the cassava leaves to create handicrafts or food in the local markets, it's really creating a new economic stream for them by giving them kind of working capital to start businesses of their own. And it's just been for me, as powerful as it's been for that community, it gets me even more excited about the potential that a brand like IO can have to truly change the world. If you think about, today I think the stat is we about 90% of our diets or 80% of our diets come from about 12 staple crops. There's 8,000 others, right? And so IO brings a lot of kind of nutrient dense seeds and beans to the forefront of the discussion. And so if we can tap into some of those communities, tap into some of those ingredients at scale, it actually creates a ripple effect on those economies and does change lives. And so for us, it's incredibly exciting. The other kind of project that we've just ventured into is the south side of Chicago has historically been underserved economically. We are building in partnership with the city an innovation center that will live in an environment that's a part of kind of major transformation, where we can be an asset to the community in terms of providing kind of experiential food experiences through IO, but also creating jobs in that community. So that's a 5,000 square foot facility that will host kind of R&D space, and cool. E-com will be fulfilled out of there. And so that'll be live. We broke ground in December, it'll be live next year. But for us, it's just deeply embedded in kind of who we are as people, and what we want our company to stand for in terms of its values, is a company that's deeply committed to not only kind of enriching the food landscape, but enriching lives of the people that inspire the brand.
The way you talk, I would not believe you're a 3-year-old brand.
No.
Just for all you've accomplished, and especially more than half of that was during a global pandemic. It's just amazing. But having said that, you even said that, with 60 different, categories in the grocery store, you have lots of places to go or potentially go. What's the vision? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, as you go forward? Where do you think, without giving anything away, of course?
Yeah, I mean, we want to be $1 billion platform brand that celebrates West African flavors and makes a meaningful impact on kind of diversifying our supply chain. And so there's a lot of spaces in the store that where global flavors are kind of accelerating the growth, but there's a massive hole in the second largest continent in the world. And so we're leaning into the capabilities that we've built over the last 3 years as our starting point. And so you can see that obviously with our expansion into mini pies. We hope to kind of tackle center of store at some point, and we've started to do that with our sauces. But the world is very much our oyster in that way. And so we're excited about kind of where the demand is, where the need is. Susan, you can help us figure that out.
Actually, we should talk offline. Especially if you're starting like an innovation incubator in Chicago, we have some programs. So let's talk.
Awesome. And so lots of runway, lots of places to go, and we're the plan, like I said, is to build a $1 billion brand where, you can go down any aisle of the store and experience some flavors of West Africa.
Yeah. Well, with
That's
all
very
you've done
cool.
in 3 years, I think $1 billion might even be underselling where you're going.
And give
Oh, I
you
like how
that.
you're thinking. I
Yeah.
like how you're
Very impressive. Very impressive.
Just remember us when.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
That's
Yes.
right.
Exactly.
Well, Perteet, thank you so much. This has been really fascinating, and I look forward to trying some of the product, and look forward to following your progress as you continue to move forward. And you are more than welcome to stick around for the quiz. So it's time for What the Food
Yes.
with Kevin Ryan, our resident food scientist and expert on all things culinary. So, Kevin, we're going to turn it over to you so you can stump us once again on What the Food.
All right. Well, I was very optimistic when I came up with this quiz because I was looking at the calendar and I was like, you know what? I was not looking out the window. It's actually spring,
It is.
according to the calendar. So I was thinking springtime, and what about, let's talk about springtime foods, growth, planting, new birth, all that kind of stuff. So this is a springtime food quiz. All right. So, and as Charlie said, Perteet, you're more than welcome here. So to join in. So first question. At the height of its growing season, how much can asparagus grow in a 24-hour period? Is it A, less than an inch, B, 3 inches, C, 7 inches, or D, 10 inches in a 24-hour
Yowza.
period?
10.
Susan says 10.
I got to go with 3. That
3.
seems like it's a stretch.
Perteet,
but-
what's your thought?
I'm going to say 3 too.
Susan is correct.
Whoa!
In
Okay.
a height of its growing
Never
season, which
happens.
is actually in the height of summer. It actually has been marked. It's been measured that it can grow.
I
up to
have
10
wild
inches.
asparagus in my field.
Yeah.
And also, I live near the asparagus capital. Asparagus,
do.
like sandy soil. Michigan is full of it.
Really?
There is in Hesperia, Michigan, not where I live, the Asparagus Festival. And there is a Mrs. Asparagus.
Of course.
That's right.
Cool.
There is.
I like the garlic festival. I think it's Turley, California, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what do they do with the roots when it gets that long?
It doesn't really, I mean, they just trim it off the top. They have this special asparagus knife. If you've ever seen it, they trim it off and then it just shoots back up again. So you can, it's like a continually, to watch it grow, it looks almost fake. Like someone just put it in the ground because it just kind of, it comes up, but 10 inches at the height. Now during spring, it's usually closer to 3 inches a day, which still is amazing that anything can grow that fast.
I didn't realize asparagus was cut and come again in the same season.
It can. Yeah.
can,
if it's
yeah.
in the growing season.
And I don't know how they're doing it now, but a lot of it's like hand picked. They have a machine that people are sitting on. You're bent over.
Yes.
And you're hand harvesting that. It's literally backbreaking work.
The hardest to grow is white asparagus, where they actually push the
Have to keep pounding it over.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Chlorophyll doesn't come in.
Okay, I'm feeling good about this quiz. All right, let's keep going.
Susan's up. Okay, question 2. Strawberries are in what plant family? A, the rose family, B, the melon family, C, the mint family, or D, the tomato family?
Tomato.
Tomato? Perteet.
I'm going to say mint. Like it's got a little bud.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too. I'm going mint.
You're all wrong. It's rose.
Oh!
They're a member of the Rosaceae family. So,
Really?
yes, they actually have the little things that come up off the side like a rose. It's almost like the start of a rosebud. So you're close, Perteet, like the idea of that. Yeah.
So a rose by any other name is strawberry.
Is a strawberry. That's correct. That is true.
Okay.
All right. Now we're going to get into animals. Number 3, what shape, and Charlie might have a lead on this one, but what shape are the pupils of a lamb? Are they A, round, B, square, C, rectangular, or D, diamond?
I don't have a lead on that one. I've never looked that closely into the eyes of a lamb.
I'm gonna go diamond.
Diamond?
Yeah, I'm going to go diamond as well.
Perteet?
I'll shake it up and say rectangular.
Perteet is right. It is
Yay.
rectangular.
Oh.
And the reason is because they're prey animals and they need a wider field of view. So the rectangular vision gives them a 270 to 320 degree view.
Get out.
Wow.
Yes. So they can
That's
spot
amazing.
predators
Yeah,
without
yeah,
moving
yeah.
their eyes. Yes.
Wow. Can't
All
sneak
right.
up on a lamb.
You can't sneak up on a lamb. So number 4.
There'll never be another you.
Oh, we're going to move on from the dad jokes.
What do
Okay.
you call a
number-
cow that doesn't have milk?
Utter failure.
You guys, the guys know this. You can't answer. Any guesses,
Yes.
Perteet? A milk dud. A milk dud.
A milk dud. Oh, I
Oh,
think
milk
utter failure is
dud. I
also good
like
too.
it.
It's
Either
also
one.
good too.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, number 4. Growing up, many of us were told to eat our carrots so that we'd have better eyesight. Is that true or something just our moms made up? True or false?
True.
True. It's the lutein.
Yep.
Or isn't it lutein? Yeah. There's
Susan?
something in it.
It's true.
It is true, but barely. And Perteet, you're right. It's beta carotene.
Yeah,
Oh,
beta-carotene.
But what's really interesting is the story was started in World War II, or got real traction during World War II, because the British RAF invented radar, and they were bombing at night and hitting their targets. And to get around the fact that they didn't want the Germans to know they invented radar, they started a propaganda campaign talking about how much carrots their pilots ate.
That's amazing.
And that's where it really became popular, is because people, even the British, believed it until after the war.
But isn't beta carotene what they added to golden rice to
Yes, to
add
help
some
with
of the
eyesight. Yes,
eyesight, to help with
yes,
night
that's
blindness,
right.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is true, but not to the point where you could run a bombing raid at night. All right, last question. In ancient times, it is recorded that mint was used for the following purposes, except which of these? A, rubbing on the dining room table to welcome guests. B, whitening teeth. C, invigorating horses after a run. Or D, scattering in carpets for fresh smelling steps. Which is not true.
Not true.
Rubbing on the
say
dining
D.
table. What is that with Perteet?
D.
D,
Rubbing
scattering
on-
on carpets. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm going to go
Susan?
rubbing on the dining
Okay.
table.
Dining table.
I'm gonna go
Susan?
horses.
Susan is correct. It is
No!
horses. It
Oh!
is Susan won. I believe Susan
Oh, has
has
frozen
won this.
over.
Yes, actually, all the rest of them, everything from rubbing on the dining table to whitening the teeth to scattering on carpets, so that when you walked, it would smell like mint with every step. Those were all recorded uses of mint in the ancient
Huh.
world.
Interesting.
Susan, you are up, I believe.
She
have
is.
two.
She is. Yeah. I don't think I got a single one. So this
Perteet was
not
right
good.
behind, though.
She was. She
Right
was.
behind.
You are an inaugural member.
It was girl
'Cause you
power.
would have.
It was all
Oh,
girl power
yay.
today.
Yeah.
That's right. It was.
Yes.
It was awesome.
All right, Perteet, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Fascinating story. We'll look forward to continuing to follow the great success of IO wherever you go. And congratulations and kudos for your mission-centered work. It's inspiring. So thank you
Oh,
for that.
Thanks so much for having me.
You
Thank
bet.
you
And
for
if you
joining.
would like to offer suggestions or comments or questions you'd like Kevin to ask us during the next quiz, you can send all of that to 3squaresmail@gmail.com. That's the numeral 3squaresmail@gmail.com. On behalf of Kevin and Susan, thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next episode of 3 Squares.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.